What's going on, 49er faithful? You are tuned in to Keeping the Faith. I'm JD, and we are just under 1 week away from the 49ers rookie class reporting to Santa Clara for the start of the 49ers 2025 training camp. Football is right around the dang corner, and I'm pumped. I'm hyped. Let's go. It is July. Football is back. From now until February, there will be football in each and every month. From now until February, it's a beautiful time of the year. Absolutely beautiful time of the year. The Hall of Fame game is at the very end of July. For those of you that don't know that off the top of your head, I believe the Hall of Fame game is like July 31st. So we have a football game this month. The NFL is back. The 49ers are damn near back. They will be taking the field in Santa Clara, at least the rookies will, in just over a week on July 15th. The veterans will report 1 week later on July 22nd, and away they will go. Football is here. I'm ready. I'm pumped up. I know you guys are too. And so I wanted to come on and start this week with some 49er talk. And I'll get into the training camp stuff leading up to the start of training camp. I'll also have an announcement as far as a set streaming schedule goes. I'll release that sometime this week for my schedule of how I'm going to operate this coming season. That way you guys can have a good idea of when I'll be on. And, I'll be a little more consistent in that way. In the off season, it's a little tough. You got things going on. It's summertime. You're doing stuff with the family. Football's not happening there, so I want to be better about being more consistent with my streaming schedule, and I will get that ironed out and let you guys know that sometime this week, if not early next week. But I'm pumped, guys. Football season is here. Let's see who we got in the live chat before we get things going. I see my guy, David Corona, checking in. He says, "What up, homie? What up, David? Thank you for tuning in, my friend." He also says, I can't wait for the season to start. Let's go Niners. Exactly. It's so close, man. It's just so close that we can almost smell the grass, man. We can almost smell the grass down at Levi's down at training camp. And speaking of training camp, I have a tiny little bit of information that I haven't seen anywhere else. So if you'll hear it here first, if you're watching the stream or if you're watching the stream after the fact, but I have a little bit of information about training camp. It's nothing huge, nothing earth shattering, but it's important for those that like to attend 49ers training camp down in Santa Clara. I was told today, a little birdie told me that the San Francisco 49ers this year will be having a very limited amount of open public practices during training camp this year. Typically, they do quite a few. I mean, they do 6 to 8 to 10, training camp practices a year that are open to the public. I was not given a finite number. I was not given a definitive number on how many open practices that they will have this year, but I was told that there will be a limited amount of 49ers open public practices this year. So if you're trying to make plans for training camp, just plan accordingly, plan ahead, maybe check the secondary market, ask around, ask some friends that that are season ticket holders. I'm a season ticket holder, and even for me, sometimes it's a little tough to get training camp tickets. But now, hearing that the 49ers public practices are going to be limited this year, it may be even tougher. But I wanted to share that news with you guys. So just don't be alarmed. Don't be shocked when that information rolls out. Now, of course, the 49ers are always, right around the last of the teams in the NFL to release their training camp schedule as it pertains to public practices. But we'll be getting that news any day now. And as soon as I get that news, I will definitely pass that along to the viewers. But I'm excited nonetheless. I'm going to definitely try to get down to training camp this year. But with space being limited, practices being limited, we will see how that goes. But tonight here on the show, I wanted to get into an interesting topic. I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure that there are plenty of you viewers out there watching that are interested in, putting a little money on 49ers games and on the NFL and sports in general. Sports betting's huge. Daily fantasy, that stuff's taken off like a rocket. Places like PrizePicks, FanDuel, Yahoo Fantasy, all these different sports betting sites that you can get odds on now. And I wanted to get into something that I think is a little bit interesting, because I think that you can correlate the betting lines regarding 49er individual player props and kind of the outlook for the 2025 season, because we all know that the San Francisco 49ers, how should I phrase this? We all know that Las Vegas is not in the business of losing money. And these gambling sites are not in the business of losing money. And they are privy to tons of information that the public just simply does not have. And so when they put out betting lines, when they put out player props, and when I say player props, I'm talking about things like passing yards throughout the course of a season, passing touchdowns throughout the entirety of a season. How many receptions does George Kittle get in 2025 for the entire season? How many rushing yards does Jordan James get in his rookie season this year? Things like that. Individual player props are what I'm referring to. And I went on to PrizePicks, and that's typically the site that I frequent the most when it comes to betting on sports is PrizePicks. And I do a little bit of football. I do a little bit of basketball, mainly football, but those are kind of the ones that I dabble in. And so I checked out PrizePicks, and I wanted to see, okay, what are they saying about the individual 49ers players that they have available for people to bet on PrizePicks this year? What are the full season props that PrizePicks is putting out there that fans can go ahead and place their money on this year? And I was a little bit I was a little bit shocked at some of the numbers that I saw. And I was definitely interested. And I said, this might be a decent video topic. So I went ahead and I put together a little slideshow of some screenshots that I took of the player props for individual 49ers for the upcoming 2025 season. And I'm going to go through these are all the individual player props that the PrizePicks is allowing you to bet on with the 49ers. Not every player is accounted for. For instance, Brandon Ayuk does not have any player props for the season that you can currently bet on PrizePicks. Now, I'm sure that'll change, especially when he returns to the lineup. But as we stand right here, right now, there's only a certain number of players that you're able to currently bet on for a full season prop, a full season player prop. And I thought some of them were interesting, so I put together a little slideshow of all the different player props, and I want to go through them with you guys and kind of talk them out. Look at the numbers, and with PrizePicks, you're betting either less than or more than the stat line that they provide. So let's say Brock Purdy's full season touchdown stat line is 24 and a half, right? If it's 24 and a half, will he have less than 24 and a half total passing touchdowns or more than 24 and a half total passing touchdowns for the 2025 season? And I think taking a look at these individual player props can tell you a lot on what people are expecting from the 49ers and the individual players on the roster this upcoming season. And I want to get into that with you guys, go through all the player props that they currently have available over there on PrizePicks. And I'm going to give you guys my take on what they could possibly mean, whether or not PrizePicks is going to be wrong or right, potentially, where I may or may not place a little bit of scratch on it. What looks good to me, what I think, maybe they got wrong. But before I do that, let me check with the chat one more time before we get things rolling, because I love to say what's up to everybody as they trickle in to the stream, and I don't want to miss anybody. And real quick, before I do that, if you guys are interested in behind the scenes content, bonus 49ers footage, especially with the season fast approaching, if you're interested in monthly giveaways, check out the Patreon. If you want to help support the channel as we continue to grow, as we continue to keep the ball rolling here on Keeping the Faith, check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/keepingthefaith. Become a member today and check out all the perks over there. All the information is down below in the ticker, as well as the description box. And again, patreon.com/keepingthefaith. A lot of the Patreon members do participate in these live chats when I do these streams. So if they're in there, they'll tell you, man, it's a good time. So check out the Patreon if you want to help support the channel, if you feel so inclined. Not required, but greatly, greatly appreciated. And I think people will get their money's worth over there on the Patreon. So just go ahead and check that out if you feel so inclined. Let's see who else we got in the chat. Papa J tuning in. He says, "What's good, fam?" What's up, Papa J? Thank you for tuning in tonight here on Keeping the Faith, man. Hey, we're so close to training camp, guys. So close. I got football on the brain, and I had to go live and talk to you guys. I'll have tons and tons of content coming up, and of course, the season's going to be coming. So keep it locked right here on Keeping the Faith. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you have your notifications on so you never miss a video and you never miss when we go live. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the big topic of the show. If you guys missed it in the open, I'm going to be talking about player props tonight. And based on PrizePicks projections for individual 49ers players for the 2025 season. So let's get into it. And I would be mistaken if we did not start with Brock Purdy. You got to start with the quarterback when you're talking about betting on football, betting on player props, right? You got to start with Brock Purdy. And you guys see it up here on the screen. For the 2025 season, PrizePicks has Brock Purdy's passing yards set at 3,824 and 1/2 passing yards for 2025. Will he go under that? Will he go over that? That is the question. So I have a bunch of notes that I took here, and I'm going to go through those as we talk about these player props. So in 2024, we all know the story. We know the injuries. We know what happened in 2024. I'm not going to rehash all that stuff too much. But Brock Purdy played in 15 games in 2024 and passed for 3,864 yards that season last year. That's more than what PrizePicks has Brock Purdy projected for in 2025. And that is taking into account how bad 2024 was for Brock Purdy and the 49ers and the injuries and just everything that happened. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the 49ers last year. And he still passed for more yards in 2024 than what PrizePicks is projecting Brock Purdy will pass for in 2025. So I'm just saying, if I were to bet on that specific player prop, I'm smashing the over. Because in 2023, Brock Purdy shattered the 49ers single season passing record. He had over 4,200 yards passing, damn near 4,300. I think it was like 4,280 was his number in 2023 when he had a full supporting cast around him and stayed healthy and played all the games in the regular season. I think Brock Purdy, man, I think he breaks that PrizePicks projection. Let's see what it was. Let me take a look at it one more time. In 2025, Brock Purdy is projected to pass for 3,824 and a half passing yards according to PrizePicks. I would take the over. And I know that the 49ers are a run-first team. I know that Christian McCaffrey is going to be back healthy, and maybe that cuts into Brock Purdy's passing yards, right? Maybe they're running the ball a lot more this year because Christian McCaffrey is healthy. But they ran the ball with Christian McCaffrey a hell of a lot in 2023 when Brock Purdy passed for over 4,200 yards. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had over 1,400 rushing yards in 2023, and Brock Purdy was still able to pass for more than 4,200 yards. So considering that everything went wrong for the 49ers last year, and he still passed for more yards than what PrizePicks is projecting for 2025 for quarterback Brock Purdy, I'm taking the over. I don't know about you guys, but I'm taking the over. Papa J says, I'll take the over on Brock. That's what I'm saying. It feels like the over, man. It feels like the over. Niners Nation says, I got less. Okay. I'd be curious to know why. He says, run first team. Well, they've been a run first team under Brock Purdy, and it didn't affect him negatively in that regard. I mean, I don't know. I would take the over. I would. It's an easier schedule this year in 2025. You have to imagine that Kyle Shanahan's not going to run Christian McCaffrey into the ground. There's plenty of hype around Isaac Guerrero being an exceptional receiving threat this season, right? And not to mention, you have a bunch of new receivers on this team and receivers in general who can create a ton of separation, more so than the skill guys that the Niners have had in years past. I just think Brock Purdy goes over. I think Brock Purdy goes over. And I'm not trying to sound like a homer. I'm trying to look at it as realistic as I possibly can and lay out the reasons why. I would take the over. I would. I don't know about you guys, but I would. Let's move on to Brock's passing touchdown projection, according to PrizePicks for 2025. 23.5 passing touchdowns is the projection by PrizePicks. Will he go over? Will he go under? In 2024, playing only 15 games, he had 20 passing touchdowns a season ago. We all know why. We all know the injuries. We know Brandon Ayuk being out for the majority of the season killed him. We know Christian McCaffrey not being there, providing that reliable security blanket for a lot of the season, killed Brock Purdy. We know that hurt his production, right? But even with everything that went wrong, he still hit 20 touchdowns last year. And, of course, we all remember 2023 when the 49ers offense was electric and on top of its game. Brock Purdy had 31 passing touchdowns. So this marker of 23.5 is kind of right in between, just about right in between a little bit. And as far as the passing touchdowns go, 23.5 is a tricky number. But I'm trying not to sound like some just big-time 49er homer, but I would take the over. I would, again, take the over on Brock Purdy. 23.5 passing touchdowns. I'd give him 24. I don't have a problem giving Brock Purdy 24, 25 passing touchdowns this year. Juwan Jennings is in a contract year, and he's going to be trying to make a ton of money. Ricky Pearsall is another year in the system, and he came on strong late in the year in 2024. They've upgraded the talent at wide receiver by bringing in Demarcus Robinson, who, once he's back from the assumed suspension early in the season, he's going to provide a reliable target for Brock Purdy. George Kittle, still at the top of his game at age 32, who just signed a brand new contract extension. Who else? Jordan Watkins, the rookie wide receiver, is expected to make an impact this year. Jacob Cowing is a guy who, by all accounts, has taken a step in his development. So, and of course, you have Christian McCaffrey back, who's going to be catching a ton of Brock Purdy passes out of the backfield and helping spread out the defense and making defenses account for every blade of grass on the football field. I would take the over on the 23.5 passing touchdowns. I don't know about you guys. I know that the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have always been a run-first team, and I know that they love to give Christian McCaffrey the ball until he can't take it anymore. But I think I would take over 23.5 passing touchdowns from Brock Purdy this year. I really do. He's heard all the noise. He's heard all the critics criticizing his new huge contract that he signed this offseason. Brock Purdy's going to want to come out and prove that he's worth the money. And he's that guy who's going to have a chip on his shoulder no matter what. And I think Brock Purdy will have over 23.5 passing touchdowns this year. I see my guy Keys tuning in. Haven't seen him in a little bit. He says, "What's up, JD? And Niner Faithful, I can't wait for the season. Time to shine." Absolutely, Keys. We are 1 week out from rookies reporting to Santa Clara for training camp. And here tonight on Keeping the Faith, we're just diving into some individual player props for the 49ers that you can bet on PrizePicks. And I've gone through the Brock Purdy passing yards stat line, and right here on the screen, 23.5 passing touchdowns is what PrizePicks is projecting for Brock Purdy in 2025? Will you bet the over? Will you bet the under? Me, again, I'm gonna go the over. I think Brock Purdy has a hell of a year, and I think he's going to be set out to prove all the doubters wrong. I think the soft schedule is going to play into it big time, and I also think the addition of Robert Saleh is going to have this 49ers defense playing a hell of a lot better than it did in 2024, and that's going to give Brock Purdy some short fields, great field position, and I think Brock Purdy is going to be able to capitalize. I really do. And so I would bet the over on the 23.5 passing touchdowns. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly would. Let's move on to the next player prop, and that would be George Kittle. You guys can see that up here on the screen. George Kittle, 899.5 passing yards is the projection from PrizePicks. Will he go over? Will he go under in 2025? Of course, George Kittle, brand new shiny contract, highest paid tight end in the National Football League, who has shown zero signs of slowing down entering his age 32 season. The future Hall of Famer had over 1,000 yards in 2024. Let me take a look here. I have my notes. He played 15 games in 2024, did George Kittle, with 1,106 receiving yards that season. I think 899 is criminally low, especially given the fact that you have to imagine George Kittle will be the focal point of the 49ers passing attack early on in the season with the absence of Brandon Ayuk, the absence of Demarcus Robinson to the potential suspension, as Ricky Pearsall assimilates himself in the offense as Juwan Jennings. We know what Juwan Jennings is. We know he's a solid player, but I don't think he's taken any targets away from George Kittle, to be frank. And so 899.5 receiving yards for George Kittle, to me, is a little low. I think it's a little low. What does this mean, though? What does it mean? Are they expecting George Kittle to finally take a step back, to finally show some chinks in his armor and have those injuries start taking a toll? Maybe he'll miss some games. Is that why we're seeing such a low projection for receiving yards by George Kittle? I don't know. But I feel like and you know what? I see it here. Keys in the chat says Kittle over. That sounds like stealing. But that makes me wonder, like, is that why the number is so low? Because it's going to make everyone smash the over, and maybe Vegas knows something, PrizePicks knows something that the public doesn't know. Maybe that's the talk behind the scenes, is that maybe George Kittle, loses a step this year. Maybe the injuries take the toll. Maybe he's kind of not as involved in the offense as everyone seems to think he will be. I seem to doubt it. I would doubt it. I would take the over if I'm betting on it, quite frankly. But it makes you think. It makes you go, why is that the number for George Kittle? 899.5. That's a very interesting stat line for George, especially considering we know how effective he's been under Brock Purdy. I mean, multiple 1,000-yard seasons with Brock Purdy at the helm. So 899 receiving yards is definitely an interesting stat number or yardage number for George Kittle. Niners Nation says over. Kittle, if healthy, top paid tight end in the league. Absolutely. I'm taking the over. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking at it through red and gold colored glasses, but I would take the over. I would. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. George Kittle. Oh, got to rewind it. There we go. 6.5 receiving touchdowns for George Kittle is the projection, is the betting number in 2025 by PrizePicks. Now, in 2024, George Kittle had 8 receiving touchdowns, and 6.5 is an interesting number. It's an interesting number. Again, all the talk is that George Kittle is going to be this huge focal point of the offense and finally be featured in the way that he always should have been, right? But he's also going into his age 32 season, and there's going to be some new blood on the 49ers offense. And also, Christian McCaffrey is going to be back this year, and he's going to take some receiving targets. Jordan Watkins, Jacob Cowing are going to be explosive down the field threats for this team. Ricky Pearsall is expected by many, and especially me, to take a massive leap in his second season, and that could cut in to the numbers that we see from George Kittle. You know what? This one, I'm just going to go with my gut here, and I would go under. I would go under 6.5 receiving touchdowns by George Kittle this year. I think Ricky Pearsall cuts into that number. I think Juwan Jennings cuts into that number. Christian McCaffrey, Demarcus Robinson when he's healthy. Of course, Brandon Ayuk when he comes back into the lineup. There's a lot of mouths to feed on this 49ers offense when they're going to be fully healthy and fully functional. And I'm taking the under. I got a sneaky feeling I would take the under. And I'm not throwing any shade at the future Hall of Famer George Kittle. But I'm just trying to look at this as a guy who would be trying to win money if I'm placing some money on this. I'll take the under. I don't know what you guys think. I take the under. David Corona says over. Papa J says over. Keys says feed Kittle. I don't know. I just have a sneaky suspicion that it might be under. I would go with the under. I'm not trying to jinx anything, not trying to throw any shade at George, but I'm taking the under on that one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next player prop. Christian McCaffrey, 949.5 rushing yards is the projection, is the number for Christian McCaffrey in 2025. To me, that is criminally low. That feels criminally low. Why is the number so low for Christian McCaffrey? Yes, he's entering his age 29 season. Yes, he's coming off of a knee injury that sidelined him for the later part of the season. Yes, he had Achilles tendonitis that kept him out for the first 10 weeks. We know the story. We know that Christian McCaffrey has taken his lumps. We know that he has some wear and tear on the tires. But 949.5 rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey in this offense under Kyle Shanahan, and by all accounts, he is healthy and ready to go. I think that's insulting. I do. I feel like that's an insulting number. I would hammer the over. I'm hammering the over on Christian McCaffrey at 949.5 receiving yards. He better break 1,000 if healthy. Exactly. If he's healthy, how does he not break 1,000 rushing yards? I don't see how he doesn't pass 1,000 rushing yards as long as he's healthy in his sleep. Maybe that's why. Maybe they don't expect him to stay healthy. Maybe we're looking at a repeat of 2024 with Christian McCaffrey. Maybe that's the new normal, right? I don't think so, though. I think he's got one more stellar season in him, and I think 949.5 rushing yards is criminal. I think that's just blasphemous, if I'm being honest with you. Papa J says over for CMC. I'm with you. I think that's a bad number. But then again, that's how these betting sites get you. That's how Vegas gets your money, because they make you think with your heart instead of your head when you're a fan betting on these things. So maybe we're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're all wrong if we're taking the over on Christian McCaffrey. But I'm bent with my heart on that one. I think he goes over that. I think he gets over 1,000 yards in 2025. I truly do. Let's see what my notes have here. So we all know that McCaffrey in 2023 had 1,459 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. We know that 2023 season was historic. But prior to 2023, Christian McCaffrey only surpassed 949.5 rushing yards, which is that projection. He only surpassed that number twice in his career prior to 2023. And he's older now, and he's coming off major injuries that will still linger for the rest of his career. Bilateral Achilles tendonitis does not go away. It is only managed. So with those numbers in mind, do you think that does it make you reconsider? Does it make you think, okay, maybe Christian goes under that number? I'm still going over. I think he's got one more year in him to prove the doubters wrong and put up a hell of a season. And I think Kyle Shanahan's going to do a better job at resting him, at giving him a breather, incorporating guys like Isaac Guerendo, incorporating the rookie Jordan James. But I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. I don't care what the trends are. I'm taking the over. Sorry. Niner Nation, he says, under for CMC. I'm not buying that he's going to last all season. I'm not mad at that. I can't be mad at that. I get where you're coming from. My head is with you. My heart's not. And that's how Vegas gets your money. That's how they'll get money from guys like me. They bet with their heart instead of their head. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over. Key says over for McCaffrey. He's rested and playing not to get cut with his huge upcoming salary. I don't think McCaffrey's going anywhere. I think he's one of the boys. I think he's, he's one of Shanahan's guys. He's one of the locker room favorites. I don't think McCaffrey is going anywhere, but he definitely has something to prove this year. That's for sure. And that's going to play into it. I think he's going to play through some little nicks and dings and injuries. I think he's going to, really, really come out there with something to prove. And I think 949.5 is just kind of insulting, like I mentioned. I think he goes over. I do. Let's move on to the next player prop. And this is also a Christian McCaffrey number. 6.5 rushing touchdowns for Christian McCaffrey in 2025. Are you taking the over or are you going under? I have some notes on this one as well. Christian McCaffrey in 2024, we know, had 0 rushing touchdowns. He only played in 4 games. He was just getting back to form before injuring his knee in Buffalo and missing the rest of the season. But he had 0 rushing touchdowns in 2024. Prior to that, in 2023, like I mentioned, he had 14 rushing touchdowns. A hell of a season. So 6.5, if you're looking at 2023, you would think 6.5 is that's low. That's very low. But we don't know what Christian McCaffrey we're going to get in 2025. That's just the breaks of it. That's the, them's the breaks. We don't know exactly what kind of Christian McCaffrey we're going to get. But in his career prior to 2023, that huge season with the Niners, he only surpassed 6.5 rushing touchdowns twice in his entire career prior to 2023. So I think the smart money may be on the under 6.5 for McCaffrey in 2025. You have to think that maybe when they get down around the goal line, they try and preserve him and not let him take the punishment down around the goal line, and they give the ball to a bigger, more power back like Isaac Guerendo. Jordan James is tough between the tackles. Brock Purdy is also very adept at sneaking in for some rushing touchdowns of his own. I would take the under. I would take the under on the rushing touchdowns. Maybe they get the ball to McCaffrey out in space a little bit more as a receiver, let him see what the defense is doing more, make a decision to get out of bounds or get down, and maybe they try and preserve him on the goal line. I'm going under. I'm going under 6.5 rushing touchdowns for McCaffrey in 2025 if I'm putting money on it. I don't know about you. Keys disagrees with me. Keys disagrees and says over on touchdowns for McCaffrey. David Corona, same thing. Over on touchdowns for McCaffrey. You guys are making it difficult for me, man. You're making me feel bad. But if I'm, like I mentioned, all the reasons I just laid out there, I would take the under for Christian McCaffrey on rushing touchdowns in 2025 based on PrizePicks projection of 6.5. Let's move on to the next player prop, and that would be Juwan Jennings. And once again, I appreciate everyone for tuning in here to Keeping the Faith, man. We are just talking about individual player props as set by PrizePicks. Will you go over or under certain stat projections for individual players that you can bet on over there on PrizePicks? I'm not sponsored by PrizePicks. This is just the app that I like to use when I am betting on the Niners to do certain things, or other NFL players, NBA players, whatever sport I decide to dabble in that day. But I'm just going through the individual player props by 49ers players that are available on PrizePicks, and we're just kind of talking about, will you go over? Will you go under? Why is the number the way that it is? And just trying to make a rational decision on what you would do if you were laying down a little bit of money. And this one now is Jauan Jennings. Jauan Jennings receiving yards projection for 2025 by PrizePicks is 875.5 receiving yards. I know Jauan Jennings is a beloved 49er. I know he's kind of like an underrated 49er, an underdog that the fans really love. He has the red hair. He's got charismatic. He's a great blocker. He's tough, makes contested catches. He shows up in big games. We all love Jauan for what he brings to the table. But in 2024, Jauan Jennings had played 15 games and had 975 receiving yards in those 15 games as basically Brock Purdy's number one option at wide receiver. But this year it's going to look a little different. You're going to have Ricky Pearsall, who should be healthy and ready to go and start the majority of the games this year, and will definitely cut in to that production that Jauan Jennings saw last year. Brandon Ayuk will be back at some point this year, and that paycheck tells you he will be on the field, cutting into Jauan Jennings' playing time and production. Demarcus Robinson, who I've always liked. If you guys have watched this channel, I brought it up. I've always liked Demarcus Robinson. He's going to have a role on this team. Jordan Watkins is going to make plays. Jacob Cowing is going to have to stand out this year. George Kittle is not going anywhere. Christian McCaffrey will be healthy, going into this season, and figures to cut in to the touches that the other skill guys are going to get, right? Isaac Guerrero is being hyped up as a potential breakout candidate. He's another guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield while also getting, some carries on the ground. I think Jauan Jennings is going to come back down to earth this year. Long story short, that's what I think. I think we kind of know Jauan Jennings. We know who he is at this point in his career. Yes, he had a good season last year. Yes, he's in a contract year and going to be looking to get paid. So expect the best Jauan Jennings that we've ever seen. I understand all that. But I feel like you got to go under with Jauan Jennings on this. I feel like there's a lot of mouths to feed. I feel like there's a lot of newness to this offense. A lot of guys coming back to this offense. They're going to cut in to that production that we saw from Jauan Jennings in 2024. Prior to the 2024 season, Jauan Jennings never eclipsed anything close to the stat line that PrizePicks is projecting for Jauan, 875.5 receiving yards. I'm taking the under. I'm not a Jauan hater, but I'm also not like the biggest Jauan fan in the world either. So I feel like I'm looking at this pretty rationally, pretty realistically. I would go the under. I would. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll look stupid. But let's see what you guys are saying. I'm going the under. Papa J says over for Jauan Jennings. David Corona, over Jennings. Papa J says Robinson will be around 800 yards as well as Pearsall. They didn't have any stat lines, any projections for Demarcus Robinson, but they did have Ricky Pearsall, and we will get to that here shortly. But I just feel like there's a lot of mouths to feed, and I think Jauan Jennings' numbers are going to take a dip this year. Keys says over on Jennings. I hope you do team wins total at the end, JD. Keys, we've mentioned it on the streams previously. This question's come up. I have the Niners going at 11-6. I'll just throw that out there real quick while you're asking that question. I have the Niners at 11-6 this year. They do have a very easy schedule, but they are going to be relying on a lot of young talent. And the Niners always lose a game or two that they shouldn't, that they absolutely shouldn't. That's a staple under Kyle Shanahan's 49ers, that they lose some games that they just shouldn't. And so I have the Niners going 11-6 this year. I hope that answers your question. Cynthia in the chat says, "Hey, JD, what's up, Sin? Thank you for tuning in." Sin says, "I think over on the Jawan Jennings receiving yards prop of 875.5. I guess I'm in the minority. I guess I'm just the dumb guy who doesn't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch when it comes to Jawan Jennings. But I think I would take the under on this prop for Jawan. Sorry, that's just how I feel about it. Let's move on to the next one. Jawan Jennings, 5.5 receiving touchdowns. Now, in 2024, Jawan Jennings had 6 receiving touchdowns. So he hit the over if we were betting on this a year ago. But again, I mean, he never sniffed those numbers prior to 2024. I think the highest number he had prior to 2024 was 5. And I think, like I said, I just feel like there's too many mouths to feed, too many talented players, too much youth coming into this team. And I know Jawan is going to be trying like hell to play for a huge contract, but don't be shocked if the 49ers kind of throttle down his touches. Try and keep Jawan a little more affordable. Maybe they don't throw him the ball as much. Maybe they make him block more. Maybe they try and do some things schematically so where Jawan doesn't get the receiving yards, doesn't get the touchdowns, so that he's more affordable to retain. Teams do that stuff. That's something you have to take into consideration as well. And I don't think the 49ers want to let Jawan go, but if he has a huge season, they're not going to be able to retain him. And they love Jawan, and he's huge with what the 49ers like to do in the run game. So don't be shocked if you hear rumblings this season, oh, are they phasing out Jawan Jennings? Are they trying to limit his touches? Like, what's going on there? I wouldn't be shocked if that's a topic at some point. As far as the 5.5 receiving touchdowns for Jawan Jennings in 2025, I would go with the under. I think certain guys are going to come onto the scene and cut into those targets big time. And I would go under for Jawan Jennings, 5.5 receiving touchdowns. David Corona, over. Let's see what else. Sin says, JD, you might be right. I'm just trying to put the case out there for what I think. And you have to look at these numbers, why they are set where they're at. And I feel like I'm trying to make compelling arguments for my cases on all these stat projections. And look, I like to bet on PrizePicks. I'm not trying to lose money. So, Sin says, yes, teams do that. Kind of shady. They absolutely do try and throttle down guys' targets, man. They try and cut in to players' production so that they don't get roster bonuses, in-game bonuses, stat bonuses, and also make their future contracts more affordable to the team. That's absolutely a thing that they do, and I wouldn't be shocked if you see Jawan Jennings get that treatment from Kyle Shanahan this year. I just wouldn't. Sin takes the under. She's with me on that. Appreciate you, Sin. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I just wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if he's under that 875 yards. I wouldn't be shocked if he's under that 5.5 touchdowns and he doesn't meet the expectations that he set for himself in 2024. That's just how I feel about Jawan. Papa J says over on Jawan Jennings touchdowns. Okay. All right. I got you. I'm going the under, but I got you. So let's move on to the next player prop. And that would be Ricky Pearsall, 825.5 receiving yards. If you guys have been watching my streams, if you've been watching my channel this offseason, you know that I am absolutely bullish on Ricky Pearsall. I am more pumped up about Ricky Pearsall than perhaps any other player on this 49ers team heading into this season. I expect huge things from Ricky Pearsall in 2025. He and Brock Purdy have been working out together, training together this offseason. He came on strong late in the year when he was finally healthy and able to get on the field. We saw what he did those final 2 games of the year. And in 2024, Ricky Pearsall had 400 receiving yards in 11 games. That's a little misleading because, He wasn't really like a prime target. He was in and out of the lineup throughout the year due to injuries. But when he finally got on the field, those last 2 games of the year, and I think he had 10 receptions, 210 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the final 2 games of the season combined, you saw the talent from Ricky Pearsall. And when you look at that projection, when you project that out over the course of a 17-game season, as long as he can stay healthy, man, Ricky Pearsall is in for a hell of a season. I am so high on Ricky Pearsall. Cheech and Chong would be jealous, quite frankly. I think that Ricky Pearsall is in for a hell of a season. PrizePicks has him at 825.5 receiving yards. I'm taking the over. I think he's going to be Brock Purdy's go-to target at wide receiver. He can create so much separation. The crispness that he runs his routes with, the ability to separate. He's got great hands. He's tough. I'm going over. I think Ricky Pearsall has over 1,000 yards this year. I'll put it out there. I'll put it on wax right now. I think Ricky Pearsall goes over 1,000 yards. If I had to guess, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 catches, maybe just under 1,100 yards and like 6 or 7 touchdowns. That's kind of where I see Ricky Pearsall falling in 2025. Let's see what you guys are saying before we move on to his second player prop. David Corona says under for Ricky. Okay. I'm curious why you think that. But he does say, I have to see more from Ricky. Okay. And I get that. Maybe the number is set that low at 825.5 because Vegas isn't sure if Ricky Pearsall is going to stay healthy throughout the course of the season. Maybe that's why the number is a little low for a guy who's going to be a week 1 starter for this team and going to be Brock Purdy's go-to target at wide receiver this year. Maybe that's why that number is low. Maybe behind the scenes there's rumblings and concerns that he can't stay healthy. He's already dealing with a hamstring this offseason and missed mandatory minicamp, but he is expected to be full go upon the start of 49ers training camp on July 22nd when the veterans report. So I'm not worried about Ricky Pearsall missing any time, at least to start camp. But he has dealt with a ton of injuries in his short tenure with the 49ers. A shoulder, the shooting, of course, a hamstring has been a reoccurring issue with Ricky Pearsall. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But I'm bullish on Ricky. I'm very high on Ricky Pearsall this year, and I think he's going to take a huge step forward. And I think he's going to have a hell of a season. I really do. And so I would take the over on that as well. Keys says, Pearsall, I don't see it. It's just like draft night, WTF. I don't know. Keys, man, go back and watch what Ricky did the last 2 games of the year, man. Look at how he separates. Look at those hands. Look at the playmaking ability. Look at how Brock Purdy trusts him. I don't know. I think Ricky's in store for a big year, man. I really do. Sin says, we need both JJ and Ricky P to do well. We don't have Ayuk for the first part of the season, and Demarcus Robinson is going to be suspended. Absolutely. And so that's why I think Ricky Pearsall is going to get off to a fast start. And I think it's just going to carry over throughout the course of the season. And I think you're going to see that chemistry between Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall. I think Pearsall is going to be Brock's go-to guy aside from George Kittle this year. I do. That's just how I feel about it. Shout out to my guy, 49er-minded Bashar, saying he'd take the over on Pearsall, 825.5 receiving yards for 2025. I'm with you, Bashar. I'm with you. But then we have Filthy Casual saying Ricky injury prone. He may be, and we will find out. That's the beauty of it. Once the games get going, we will find out. But right here, right now, if I'm putting money on Ricky Pearsall's receiving yards in 2025, I'm betting the over. Let's go ahead and move on to the next player prop, which is also Ricky Pearsall. Oh, sorry, guys. 3.5 receiving touchdowns for Ricky Pearsall in 2025. I feel like that is very low. I feel like that is very, very low for Ricky Pearsall in 2025 because in 2024, he had 4 receiving touchdowns. He had more than that last year in very limited spot duty. Not to mention the final 2 games of the year, he put up touchdowns in back-to-back games. I think 3.5 is very low. I would say 5 to 7 is his range. I don't see him being like a double-digit, receiving touchdowns kind of guy at this point in his career. But I would say 3.5 is low. I would take the over. I think he's somewhere in the 5 to 7 range. Maybe 6 is the sweet spot. But I would hammer the over on 3.5. I would. Papa J says, I'm going to say Ricky will have around 875 to 900 receiving yards. David Corona says over on the touchdowns for Ricky. I'm taking the over, and I'm not thinking twice about it. That's going to be one I'm definitely going to bet on before the season starts. I'm taking the over on Ricky Pearsall, 3.5 touchdowns in 2025. Let's move on to the next one, and that would be Isaac Guerendo. Now, again, not every player is available to bet on. I'm just going off of every single individual 49ers player that is available to be bet on PrizePicks. And I'm not sponsored by PrizePicks, but hey, PrizePicks, if you want to sponsor the show, hit me up. My contact information is on the channel. I'm open to it. Also, guys, follow me on Twitter. I forgot to mention that. Follow me on Twitter at KTF49JD. Let me put it in the chat. I forgot to mention that at the top of the show. I made a Twitter for the channel, and you guys will be able to get my thoughts on a lot of things throughout the course of the season. The Twitter is in the chat, and I'll put it up here on the screen at KTF49. Oh, I put TD. I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. Don't do that one. That wasn't me. That's not mine. This one's mine. At KTF49JD is my Twitter handle, X, whatever you want to call it. I refer to it as Twitter. Follow me over there for my thoughts, a stream of consciousness on the 49ers throughout the season. I'll be posting pictures from games and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be cool. So follow the Twitter account. But Keys says, seems low over on the TDs for Pearsall. I got you. I'm with you. But Isaac Guerendo is the next player prop. And his number is set at 525.5 rushing yards. Last year in 2024, his rookie season, in inconsistent duty with Jordan Mason in the lineup, Christian McCaffrey in and out of the lineup, Isaac Guerendo played in 16 games in 2024, rushed for 420 yards, and in 2025, the projection is 525.5 rushing yards for Isaac Guerendo. I think the common move here that a lot of people would do is take the over. I feel like that's the initial jolt that you'll get. Oh, I'm taking the over. I think Guerendo takes a big step this year. I'm not sure if Christian McCaffrey is going to stay healthy. If he does stay healthy, they're going to give Isaac Guerendo some touches to spell Christian McCaffrey. They're going to make it more of a two-headed approach, yada, 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 right? But I don't know. If I'm betting on it, I think 525.5 is a little high. I think it's a little high because we know if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, he's getting all the touches he can handle. They also drafted a rookie running back in Jordan James, who, can be expected to see some playing time this year at some point. Not to mention Isaac Guerendo is being highly touted for his receiving ability and that being a part of his skill set that Kyle Shanahan looks to exploit this year. I think 525.5 is a little high. Maybe not crazy high, but I just think it's a little high. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe McCaffrey gets hurt and Guerendo's the lead back for an extended period of time. But I would take the under if I'm betting on that right here, right now. Sin says, I agree. Thank you, Sin. Jay Boss, the Don, says, just followed. Appreciate you. Thank you for the follow over there. Much appreciated, my man. David Corona says, because CMC is take over. I'm assuming you mean that you think CMC is going to get hurt, so take the over on the rushing yards for Guerendo. That's what I'm taking on that. Papa J says over for Isaac Guerrero. Okay, maybe I'm in the minority again. I'm taking the under on Isaac Guerrero on those rushing yards. I think he's going to show more as a receiver this year, and I think that things are going to be balanced pretty well. And I'm banking on Christian McCaffrey to stay a lot healthier than he did last year. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I think if I'm betting on it, I would go with the under on Isaac Guerrero. Let's go to the next player prop, which is also an Isaac Guerrero number, 4.5 rushing touchdowns. In 2024, like I mentioned, Isaac Guerrero played in 16 games. He had 4 rushing touchdowns in 2024. And the projection is 4.5 in 2025 for Guerrero. This is where I would go over. Because like I mentioned earlier with McCaffrey, I think when they get down around the goal line, they're going to spare his body. They're going to spare him from the wear and tear down around the goal line. And Isaac Guerrero is a big-ass dude. And I think they're going to give Guerrero some goal line touches. I think that's going to be a sneaky element to the 49ers rushing attack this year. And I would take the over on Isaac Guerrero, 4.5 rushing touchdowns. Maybe 5, maybe 6. That's kind of where I'm feeling. I know it's a slim margin, but I think 4.5 is a little low. And I think you're going to see some short yardage stuff from Isaac Guerrero down around the goal line this year that'll cut in to the rushing touchdown total for Christian McCaffrey. And I think Guerrero goes over. I think he goes over this year. David Corona agrees with me. Over on the touchdowns. Keys says Guerrero over. He's going to have a lot of explosive plays. And that's another element to it. Guerrero's going to pop off this year. He's got all the speed. He's got all the size. He's got the explosiveness. He's going to pop off some big runs that may go for touchdowns this year as well. So I would take the over on the 4.5. But that's just me. Papa J, over on touchdowns for Guerrero. Yep. I think we're all in agreement there. I think we're on the same page. Let's move on to the next player prop, and that would be Fred Warner. And again, not everybody's available, and not every stat is available to gamble on over on PrizePicks with the individual player props. But for Fred Warner, you can bet on Fred Warner having more or less than 1.75 sacks in 2025 for number 54. Now, Fred Warner in 2024 only had 1 sack under Nick Sorensen. But you look at the rest of Fred Warner's career up until last season, 2023, he had 2.5 sacks, which is good for over. In 2022, he had 2 sacks under DeMeco Ryans, over. In 2019, under Robert Saleh, who is now the 49ers defensive coordinator yet again, Fred Warner had 3 sacks. So prior to 2024, he had shown the ability to get to the quarterback. And with Robert Saleh back in the fold, I think it's a sneaky smart bet to take the over on 1.75 sacks for Fred Warner. Maybe you guys, go throw a little money down on that. And if you get it right, maybe send me $5. I don't know. Maybe it's a number that I'm bringing to your attention. If you guys throw down a little bit of money, just don't forget about me. Don't forget about who told you to take Fred Warner over 1.75 sacks in 2025 for Fred Warner. So I don't know, but Sin agrees with me yet again with the over. I think out of all the bets, this one's kind of like a no-brainer. I really think it's a no-brainer. Yeah, he only had 1 sack last year, but he was playing in a defense under Nick Sorensen that everyone was having issues last year. And he's got Robert Saleh back. And he's been a guy who's shown the ability to get to the quarterback a little bit as a middle linebacker and come in on blitzes and whatnot. And especially when you have a bunch of rookies on this defensive line, you may not get that consistent pass rush down in and down out. So you may have to blitz a little bit more this season if you're Robert Saleh. And that means sending guys like Fred Warner at the quarterback. And he's been a guy who's gotten to the quarterback under Robert Saleh. I'm taking the over. I'm hammering the over on that with Fred Warner. I am. David Corona, over on Warner sacks. Yep, I'm with you. Let's move on to I believe this is the final player prop for the 2025 season from PrizePicks. Nick Bosa, 10.25 sacks. That's an interesting number, like the fractional numbers like that. It's not a half, it's a quarter. 10 and a quarter sacks in 2025 is the number you can gamble on, more or less, for Nick Bosa over on PrizePicks. Now, we all know the story about all the injuries last year and how Nick Bosa, didn't put together quite the season that everyone had expected. Played 14 games in 2024, had 9 sacks. But you got to look at it. In the previous 3 seasons prior to 2024, Nick Bosa went over 10.25 sacks. In 2019, under Robert Saleh, he had 9 sacks as a rookie, and then he got hurt early in 2020 and didn't get to play that second year, basically, under Robert Saleh before Saleh departed for the New York Jets. But Robert Saleh is back, and you have to take that into account when you're betting on stuff like this with Nick Bosa and any other defensive player. I think the Robert Saleh effect is going to be real. I think the fact that they are bringing in a ton of young talent on this team, and another guy like Bryce Huff, is going to help Nick Bosa see fewer and fewer double and triple teams this year. And I think Nick Bosa gets back to form. I think he's a guy with a lot to prove. And I think he goes over 10.25 sacks in 2025. What do you guys think? Sin says, not bullish on Bosa. Okay, that's interesting. Why? I want to know why. I think with Robert Saleh back in the fold, I think with some more talent around him, I think Nick Bosa is going to have a good year this year. Is he going to get like 18 sacks like he did in his Defensive Player of the Year season? Probably not. But over 10.25, I mean, 11 sacks, is that out of the question? I don't think it is. I think it's pretty realistic. 11, 12 sacks for Nick Bosa. Like, I would take the over. But I guess Vegas likes guys like me. I'm thinking with my heart on a lot of these, my fandom, but I would take the over. That's just me. Let's see what you guys say. Papa J says, over for Nick. This defense will pressure QBs more towards him. Exactly. I'm with you. David Corona, 11 sacks over on Bosa. Sin with a hot take of all hot takes. Bryce Huff will have more sacks than Bosa. Okay. I see you. And I love Bryce Huff. I'm very excited to see Bryce Huff play, but I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know. I think Nick Bosa is in store for a bounce back year, and I think he goes over 10.25 sacks. If I'm gambling, I'm taking the over. Filthy Casual says Bosa will have to race Huff to the QB. Might be a lot of sack assists. Yeah. He could be, pressuring guys into sacks on the D-line, onto his teammates, onto guys like Bryce Huff, Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West. Nick Bosa could be pressuring, But then again, with Bryce Huff screaming off the other edge, maybe that makes the quarterback have to immediately go towards Nick Bosa's side, and Nick Bosa will be right there to clean up the mess. We'll see. I'm taking the over. Guys. Papa J says we had a terrible defense last year, and he still recorded 9 sacks. Exactly. Getting double and triple teamed every play. Getting held every play on a terrible defensive line, on a piss poor defense. And everyone knew Nick Bosa was the only guy that they had, and he still had 9 sacks. I think with a little more talent, a lot better coaching, I think he goes over 10.25. I do. Sin says, I think Bosa has underperformed since his DPOY season. A lot of people kind of think that. Ever since he got the money, he's kind of bagged it a little bit, kind of dogged it. But I think Bosa's in store for a bounce back year, especially under Robert Saleh. I mean, I can't discount the Saleh factor. I can't. So, Filthy Casual says Bosa also missed some games with injuries. He did. I believe Bosa played 14 games last year. Let me confirm that. I should have I have that written down. I know I had that written down. Yeah, 14 games for Nick Bosa last year. And that's part of it too. He only played 14 games last year and still had the 9 sacks. So if he stays healthy, I think over 10.25 is kind of a home run. I do. Key says over. Bosa's going to earn that bread. I'm with you. All right, guys. Well, those are the PrizePicks player props for the 2025 season. I laid them all out to you guys. You can go and gamble responsibly, I might add, over on PrizePicks and take the overs, take the unders, whatever you prefer. Maybe I helped make an argument for you. Maybe I helped make the case for some overs, some unders on certain players. Whatever you do, don't blame me if you lose money. It's all in fun. If you have a problem gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, all that good stuff. I'm not responsible for what happens if you lose the mortgage. That's not on me. We're just having some fun talking about these overs and unders on individual 49ers players over on PrizePicks, their stat lines, their stat projections, and why they kind of were set to where they were. I feel like we made some compelling arguments about why we would take the over on one versus the under on others. I think we talked through it pretty well, and this was a fun one. Sin agrees with me. Fun show. Thank you, Sin. Much appreciated. Bashar over there laughing. Hey, Bashar, don't come crying to me, Bashar, if you lose money. Hey, it's not my fault. We're just having some fun. Talking some football, talking some prop bets and stuff, man. Sin says, LOL, don't play your mortgage money. Don't do that. I never once in this stream tonight did I tell you to do that. So don't do it. If you do it, it ain't my damn fault. It's not. Sorry. But hope you guys had some fun tonight, man. It was a good stream. Like I mentioned, 49ers rookies report down to Santa Clara on July 15th. And later this week, I will have an official announcement with a set streaming schedule. I have some tentative plans in terms of streaming schedule. I'm going to iron those out, set them in stone, and I'll let you guys know what I'm planning for this upcoming year. I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait. And if you guys missed the very top of the show, I did mention be on the lookout when the 49ers announced their open public practice training camp dates. Expect it to be very limited. A little birdie told me that today, that open public practices will be very limited down in Santa Clara this year. So, of course, those tickets are going to go fast. They're going to be hard to come by. You got to imagine the weekends are always the ones that go first. But just a little birdie, little info about training camp. I don't have a date on when the Niners are going to release tickets. I don't have the price. I don't have any information other than what I've relayed to you, but I was told today there will be limited public practices this year down in Santa Clara. But I'm going to try and make it down to at least one, maybe two, hopefully. It's hard, even for me as a season ticket holder, it's hard for me to get training camp tickets sometimes for days that I want. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I will be back this week with more streams. I'm going to be getting into the training camp stuff. We're going to be talking about, who I could see surprise this year in training camp, guys that need to have a big camp, guys that have the most to lose with a bad training camp. And of course, once practices get going, we'll be going live. We'll be talking about what happened in practice each day. I'm looking forward to it, man. Football is back, or at least it's nearly back. It's so freaking close, and I'm pumped up. I know you guys are too. So thank you guys for tuning in. Again, check out the Patreon if you want to help support the channel. And also, I do have Cash App. I didn't mention that. That information is down below in the ticker. If you guys want to help support the channel, I'm going to be transparent. I don't get a ton of support. I do have a little bit over on the Patreon. I'm trying to grow it. I'm trying to get enough people on the Patreon this year in terms of Patreon members that we can do a fantasy football league. So that would be awesome if I can do an exclusive Patreon member only fantasy football league this year. So check out the Patreon, patreon.com/keepingthefaith. You'll get behind the scenes content, bonus videos, an awesome community chat, monthly giveaways. My guy Fly Eastside, he was in the chat earlier. He just got his Keeping the Faith hat that he won in a monthly giveaway raffle a couple months ago. So check out the Patreon if you want to help support. And also, like I mentioned, if you feel so inclined, I do take Cash App JD49TD if you want to help support the stream. I'm still trying to get the monetization going. After taking time off, to deal with some health stuff, I lost the monetization. So we're still trying to get that going. We're still quite a ways away from that, but we're going to keep grinding. I can't wait for football season to get here so we can just do more streams, more content, more videos. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to take you guys with me when I go up to Seattle week 1, my first road game in the Hawks Nest, the belly of the beast, my most hated fan base. I can't wait. There's going to be tons of bonus content over on the Patreon from my trip. All kinds of stuff's coming. All kinds of stuff. So if you guys feel inclined to support the channel, much appreciated. With that, I will go ahead and wrap up the show now. Be on the lookout for more streams this week, more videos. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and have your notifications on so you don't miss any videos or any time we go live. But again, I'm JD. This is Keeping the Faith, and it's almost here, guys. Football's coming. Let's go Niners.